Hi, I'm Bob Watson, Director of Global Network Training for Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices. One of my responsibilities is to select the educators, trainers, coaches, and motivational speakers to share their knowledge and their expertise to our network. This includes our internal speakers. One of the most highly attended university courses at this year's convention in San Antonio was a program called Mr. Say and Mr. Do, featuring the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Gino Blefari, and our Senior Vice President of Consumer and Industry Research and Development, Allan Dalton. The excitement and reaction their program generated was a result of the combination of their immense experience, remarkable credibility, and forward-thinking strategies. After the seminar, I was inundated with requests to produce a video that shared their very successful real estate strategies and release it to our network. Given the importance of how we, as realtors, determine and present pricing when meeting with home sellers, I asked Gino and Allan to make this subject the topic of their first video. Here are Gino and Allan with their answers to this very important subject.
Thank you, Bob. As CEO of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, while I'm responsible for our network's success, I'm clearly not the reason behind it. Instead, you are. In the first segment of this pricing series, you'll learn from Allan Dalton, real estate's Mr. Say, on how to best approach the subject of pricing real estate.
Thank you, Gino. I may not be right, but I'm absolutely convinced that essentially 100% of your income is based upon how you communicate. Therefore, it is advisable for all those who seek to develop pricing presentation prowess that you don't inadvertently say anything during the pricing process that demotivates home sellers from listing their home with you. This takes me to pricing tip number 1, and that is to make sure, again, that we never demotivate the home sellers by unwittingly saying things that are counterproductive during the all-important pricing process. Now, speaking of demotivating prospects, many years ago I recognized that I could never be a motivational speaker. That was because of my Boston accent. Therefore, I decided to distinguish myself from motivational speakers by attempting to become the industry's first, foremost, and only self-appointed demotivational speaker. I knew this would require some research on my part, though. Accordingly, I contacted my oldest daughter, who is now a psychologist, but at the time was attending Princeton University studying psychology. I asked my daughter if she could do some research on how we demotivate consumers and deter them from making positive decisions. I thought if I was not able to motivate agents on what they could do positively, like real estate speakers from California do, that at the very least I could tell them what not to do. My daughter got back to me and said, "Dad, there are essentially 4 major demotivational pitfalls that can befall anybody who struggles with tactlessness or who has been deprived of the so-called sensitivity gene." They are, and you might want to make a note of this. Number 1, when we embarrass the prospect. Number 2, when we belittle the prospect, and especially when this occurs in front of their loved ones. Number 3, when we display too much self-preoccupation. And number 4, when we prematurely attempt to get somebody to change how they think. Gino, it is clear that what better way to belittle a homeowner than by belittling their home? And what more guaranteed way to belittle their home than to treat it as a commodity, or by comparing it to others as in actually using the word comps? Using the word comps is similar to somebody saying, "Folks, I brought some pictures of some children who are comparable to your Johnny and Susan. Each of these other children also has 2 legs and 2 arms, just like your children, and they also have 2 eyes and 2 ears as well. Therefore, we can use these children as comps." Now, as part of pricing tip number 1, I respectfully recommend that instead of saying CMA, comps, or let's take a look at some similar homes, that instead we consider saying, "Folks, let's take a look at properties which buyers will be evaluating at the same time they are evaluating your home." Let's not conflate the words comparative properties and competitive properties. Properties compete. They do not compare. And this is not just semantics. This is why we suggest that when people ask you, how are you different? You say the following. Folks, rather than focus on how I'm different, I'd rather focus on how we have to make your property different. You see, I don't compete against other realtors as much as your home competes against other properties. I actually cooperate with all the other realtors, but your home doesn't cooperate with the other properties on the market. So therefore, the way that we're different and the way that the Berkshire Hathaway home marketing system is different is how we're going to make your home different.
Allan, that makes all the difference in the world, because anytime an agent says to a home seller, let's take a look at similar homes, many home sellers respond in the same fashion by saying, but that home doesn't have a swimming pool, or that home doesn't have a new kitchen, or that home is located in a less desirable neighborhood. What the homeowner may be thinking is, how can we possibly trust your pricing guidance when you clearly do not even appreciate what's distinctive about our home? In fact, we're doubtful you even visited all of these other homes that you are comparing to our home. Also, we should remember what Allan said about the research on demotivating sellers. That is, that we also demotivate home sellers when we try to get them to change how they think. Do we really believe that we can get homeowners to think that other homes are like theirs? I don't believe we can, and by trying to do so, we might be demotivating them even without realizing it.
Thanks, Gino and Allan. What do you all think of Allan's tip of eliminating the word comps altogether and substituting the words, let's look at homes that buyers will be evaluating at the same time they're considering your home? What other words or approaches might you consider instead of the words similar homes or comps? In the next segment, we will hear Gino's pricing tip number 2.